I recently visited my hairdresser and I wanted to have my hair cut off. These are dreadlocks I have had since the year 2020. Now, they were much longer than this. I did some trimming in the year 2024, last year. So I cut them, they were double the length. So I decided it was time for change, and here they're being cut off. Of course, it was an emotional experience cutting something you've had for 5 good years, but I thought it was time. This was time. And for me, it represents a new beginning. This is very symbolic because in the year 2021, September, when my husband passed away, I still had this hair. And for some reason, I have just held on to this hair. So I decided it's a high time to just gather the courage and cut it off and see after a good wash. This is the result of the cut. It took a lot of courage to cut it off because I love long hair. So I have a new short hairstyle, as you can see. This is the new look. And in the new age, there is this movement, especially for women, I don't know about men, that when you cut off your hair, it is symbolic of a new beginning. It's like you release some emotional baggage. And let me say that I feel lighter. I feel so much better. I have had dreadlocks since the year 2020 when the COVID-19 pandemic was beginning. That's when I got my dreadlocks done. And so it has been 5 years. And I feel lighter. I feel so much better. And I read somewhere that we even now have spiritual hairdressers because cutting off your hair is much more than that. It's like a spiritual experience. And in the words of the iconic fashion designer Coco Chanel, she said that a woman who cuts her hair off is about to change her life. A woman who cuts her hair is about to change her life. Now, I don't know whether you believe that or not, but all I can say is that having shorter hair, I feel so much better. It gives me even a better mood for some reason. Maybe it is true. But in today's devotional, what matters is what Jesus says, what God says. And Jesus said, cut it off. Jesus said, cut it off. I'm not talking about hair. Let's get that story in the book of, it's the book of Matthew, chapter 5, starting from verse 29. Matthew 5:29. This is what Jesus said. He said, so if your right eye causes you to sin, take it out and throw it away. It is much better for you to lose part of your body than to have your whole body thrown into hell. Then it continues there in verse 20 and says, if your right hand causes you to sin, cut it off and throw it away. It is much better for you to lose one of your limbs than for your whole body to go to hell. So those are very strong words by Jesus about cutting it off. Of course, he was referring to sin. Cut it off. This is the message to all Christians and all believers who have come to this Christian faith, that we need to cut it off, the sin in our life. So by giving this extreme example, he doesn't literally mean that you cut off your eye or anything, but he gives this extreme example to emphasize or to show the importance of cutting off sin, because sin has the potential to take you to hell, to damnation. It is that serious when it comes to sin. Sin has the power to separate you forever with your Creator. So he said, cut it off. Now, there are people who come into the Christian faith because they think it is easy. But easy is not the word. When you come to the Christian faith, we must have what we call intentional living, which requires us to separate ourselves from anything that hinders the belief and the faith from God. Anything that separates our relationship with God, we must cut it off. That's the message for today. So you ask yourself as a Christian, when you cut off the sin, what are the benefits? And I can tell you the benefits are immense. When you cut off the sin or the source of the sin in your life, you will enjoy liberation, freedom, peace, purity, and most of all, the abundant life that God has for us. God has in store for us an abundant life. And if we sabotage that through sin, we cannot realize those dreams. So that's the benefit, the major benefit of cutting off the sin in our lives. As Jesus put it, it is better to enter heaven without those things than to have them hinder you in this life that is very temporary. So cutting off that sin ensures that you live in wholeness and wellness that the Lord has given us, the Lord has made available for us. When you cut it off, you can cut off the sin or the source of the sin. So this is the word for today in this devotional, and I hope that this message blesses you immensely. Remember, even in our physical bodies, like cutting off our hair, it comes with spiritual significance and even blessings and advantages. And how much more so when it comes to cutting off what God refers to as sin or the source of sin in our lives. When we cut it off, it has even more, a huge ripple effect. It comes with more benefits. And this is the message. So my prayer for you, together with your family, is that you may be whole and well.